Hello everyone and welcome to our video. In today's video, I'm going to tell you all about NAATI. What is the exam, what to expect, and how do you prepare for the exam? So to start off, in the NAATI exam, what you can expect. Essentially, exam is just a verbal exam where you have to go through two dialogue scenarios. A dialogue is just a conversation between two characters. In each scenario, you will have a separate scene. Maybe it's a doctor visiting a patient. So one character will be speaking in English and the other character will be speaking in a language other than English. So for this example, let's assume they are going to speak in Telugu. So in the same scene, like we said, a doctor visiting a patient, the doctor might be speaking in English and the patient will reply in Telugu. It is your job as a student giving the exam to act as a translator between both characters. The English speaker you will have to translate into Telugu, and the Telugu speaker you will have to translate that dialogue into English. And just like this, you'll have two scenarios. Another scenario could just be a customer walking into a bank, talking to the bank teller. Similarly, the bank teller could be speaking to the customer in English and the customer might reply back to them in Telugu. So now that you have a good idea of what to kind of expect with the exam, let's go through the exam structure. In the exam, you'll have two dialogues, as I previously mentioned. Each dialogue will be one scenario, and it's going to be a total of about 290 to 310 words. So essentially, you have two sides of the speakers. One side will be speaking in English, and the other side speaking in another language. Let's assume it's Telugu. So each line, you essentially have 6 lines, and we call that as segments. So there's 6 segments, like English 1, English 2, all the way to English 6. And again, 6 segments for the language other than English, LOTE, Telugu 1, Telugu 2, all the way to Telugu 6. So essentially, you will have 6 segments, so one dialogue will be 12 segments. We have D1 equals 12 segments, and for the purpose of the exam, since you have 2 dialogues, that means a total of 24 segments that you have to go through. And so next, let's go through how many marks you have to actually get and what is the mark breakdown of this exam. Now in this section, we're going to cover the exam structure. So essentially, the exam has 90 marks. And each dialogue, because there's 2 of them, it's split into 45 marks and 45 marks. So for you to get a minimum to pass one single dialogue, you need a minimum of 29 marks. So essentially, to pass that section's dialogue, you need 29 marks in each. And to pass overall in the 90 marks, you need 63 marks. So if you're preparing for the exam, try and aim for about 33 marks each section to safely pass the whole exam. Now that we've looked at the exam structure and what to expect in the actual exam and in the dialogues, let's go through some of the key things that the examiner is looking for. Basically, what happens is when you enter the exam, this scenario dialogues that I've told you will be played as a recording. So they'll play the first part, which might be the English line, and you will have to translate. Then the second part might be the line in Telugu, and again, you have to translate. So your responses are also recorded and taken to the examiner or the assessor, who will then listen to how you've interpreted the dialogue and how you've repeated them and translated them and mark you accordingly. So things that kind of you should watch out for and make sure that you don't do in the exam is, first thing, is major omissions. So what that means is, let's say the English speaker has said a specific line, and when you're translating, you might miss a few key words, and in doing so, you might change the whole meaning of that sentence. So you don't want to do that. Try and replicate exactly what they've said. The second thing is distortion. So in your nervousness in the exam, you might distort the meaning of the sentence and when you're translating it, or you might change around the order of the words. So that's also something that they will deduct marks in. The next, we have grammatical errors. That's also possible when you're translating from English to another language and vice versa. You have to be careful with the grammatical errors you might make. So the grammar rules in English are obviously different to another language, and be sure to understand that and try and avoid these errors with proper practice before the exam. And of course, there's addition of information. So that can happen where you might not listen to the recording properly, or you might just understand the gist of it and you might accidentally add additional information. So let's say the translator has said a specific thing, like the chair is blue, and you might have added some additional thing, as in, oh, the big chair is blue, whereas they didn't say big. So things like adding information or any of these things could be reason for them to deduct marks for you. You want to be sure to listen carefully exactly what the recording is telling you, and then pay attention to try and replicate that sentence and translate exactly back into the other language. So make sure the meaning and the message has stayed the same, and you're not doing any of these. And so these are just a few key points. There's obviously a lot of things that the examiner is looking for. So another thing is like pronunciation and phrasing, phraseology of the words. Make sure you're actually pronouncing it properly. That doesn't mean that you need to have a specific accent for it, because obviously we all speak differently, but make sure you can actually articulate the words properly and the other person can understand exactly what you're trying to say. So in order to get a little more information about this, I hope this video has been helpful to you guys to give you a little bit about information and background so you're not as nervous and as frightened as, oh, what can I expect in the exam? To learn more, please visit us at Learning Savvy, Language Savvy right here, and please watch some more of our videos and follow us a little bit more, and hopefully you do really well in your exam. So I just want to wish all of you guys good luck.